All right, we should be recording. Again, welcome all. For those of you who haven't attended this meeting or this event before, every December, we try to have a large First Tuesday event in the Winthrop Barn where we bring engaging content and ideally a meal to share with the community to thank you all for what you make possible here at the Methow Conservancy. Obviously, we're not able to gather in the barn this year, but we feel it's still important to bring all of us together. It's an opportunity to not only see one another's faces on the screen, but also hear some folks in our community who you may know or folks you may not yet know, sharing their perspectives about what living here in the Methow Valley means to them. As I reflect on 2020, boy, where do you start, right? In looking back on this year. It's been a heck of a year. Certainly has had its share of challenges, but lots of bright spots too, sort of like Kermit the Frog, who I believe is occasionally popping up on my screen here. So hello, Kermit, and thank you for the entertainment you're providing me tonight. It's I guess in reflection for me, I am just so proud of our community and all the ways that it has stood up this year to the challenges and found ways to set the example for how we can move forward in healthy ways and in innovative ways and creative ways, determined to make this a place we all want to live and contribute to. And that's how I feel about our board and staff this year as well. They have really stepped up to every challenge, and each of you who supports our work and is a part of the Methow Conservancy gives us that confidence to step out, to lead when necessary, to bring the creativity or the passion and dedication to this work. And there are just so many ways that we have stepped out boldly this year, and I want to thank each of you for making that possible for our organization. We've been bold in completing some of the largest and most complex land conservation projects in our organization's history, while also being bold in reaching out and competing and successfully obtaining funding so that 2021 and 2022 promise to be even more exciting in terms of our land protection work on the landscape. And 2020 has made that feel more important than ever. And we are just incredibly excited about the foundation that 2020 provides us as we head into the next couple of years of land protection work. You also have allowed us to be bold in supporting our farms and small businesses in our community, as well as those in our community who have struggled for access to food. Many of you supported our Farm to Neighbors program this summer, where we paired our local agricultural community with the Cove Food Bank and those in need. And it is stunning how you all stepped up. And we were able to provide over 6,000 pounds of first-class produce to be shared with those in our community who otherwise may not have been able to access it. I'd like to thank all of you who've helped to make that possible, and especially all the farmers in our community who participated with us in making that program a huge success and something we hope to be able to continue long into the future. I also want to thank you for the support you provided that's allowed us to be bold in adapting our work, especially our education work. Transitioning to Zoom is not easy, but you've supported us in getting the Backyard Bulletin created as a new publication in our community that I think will live long past this period of COVID where we're having to be physically separated. You've allowed us to find new ways to continue volunteer opportunities out on the ground, and we're excited about that. And you've supported us in making possible the creation of a new 2.5-mile trail system in our community and a natural area on the flanks of Studhorse next to Winthrop that provide all of us with a safe place to get out, to be physically distanced, and to enjoy this amazing valley. None of that's possible without each of you who are here tonight and the broad community of people who know and love the Methow Valley. And I want to thank you so much for making that possible as 2020 winds to a close. We have one more highlight for 2020 though, and that is tonight's program and the speakers you are going to hear from shortly. And so it's my pleasure to introduce to you our MC for the evening, who will guide us through the remainder of the program, Sarah Brooks, Associate Director at the Methow Conservancy. Thank you all, and thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Jason, and thank you all for being here tonight. It is quite different to not be standing on the stage at the barn, but the things that are the same are the format for the evening. The Forethoughts is based on a concept of give the microphone to 4 diverse people we respect in our community, prompt them with a very broad theme or question, and let them go wherever they are moved to take it. Last year was our first attempt at the Forethoughts idea, and our very first speaker appropriately was Mark Miller, who is a descendant of the Methow tribe and a family member of the longest known continuous residents of the Methow Valley. And Mark's words stick with me forever, and I'm sure do still with many of you who heard him. And it's probably important for us at this moment to just pause to acknowledge and pay respect to the fact that tonight we come to you from the traditional homeland of the Methow people. Mark encouraged us all to approach our lives here in the Methow with a good heart as we care for the land and for each other, and as we reckon with our history and we think about what it means to care for our future. He asked us to always carry a good heart. And so it is with a good heart that we come to you this year with Forethoughts version 2.0. We certainly all could probably use a soup dinner at the barn where we're elbow to elbow, chair to chair, with the buzz of community in the background. And we just can't do that this year, but we can continue the tradition of providing space for different perspectives that get us all thinking about this valley and what it means to love it. I should note that over the lifetime of this event, we hope that we will be able to hear from the full range of diversity of people who know and love this place. It's hard to do that in one night with 4 speakers, but we believe that tonight's crew adds to the broadening of perspectives that we had last year, and that we will continue to broaden that scope every year as we do this event. So here's how it's going to work. We have asked for, most importantly, very brave community members to reflect tonight on a prompt, what the Methow Valley means to me. We have no idea what they are going to say. They have absolute free reign. I have not heard their remarks, nor have they heard each other's. This is world premiere stuff right here tonight. You may agree or disagree with what you hear tonight. We ask only that you come to this with a good heart and an open mind, and that you see each of these 8-minute reflections as an invitation for all of us to think about what the Methow Valley means to each of us. So let's get hearing from these speakers. And we should pause. If we were in the barn, I would make us all give a big round of applause, because they deserve one before they even say a word, for just saying yes to sharing their thoughts with the community. So we can all mutedly clap. All right. So our first speaker tonight is Daniel Senner. We asked Daniel to speak tonight for a whole variety of reasons, some of which you might guess, some of which you might not. Daniel serves in his work hours as the Methow Conservancy's Community Conservation Coordinator, which means he has a very interesting insight into what it means to try to build a sense of community. But that's actually not the primary reason why we asked him to give our first thought tonight. We asked him because Daniel is a very careful observer, and perhaps that comes from being what I have called a birder by birth. Daniel is born into a family of scientists, and I think from before he could walk was taken out on birding excursions. And he has this keen eye and very careful ears, and he's taking in more than we know. And this is our chance to find out what he's thinking. He is a relative newcomer to the Valley. He hails from Alaska and comes to us via Western Washington University in Bellingham. He and his fiance Ikeda have been living in a cozy cabin above Davis Lake and navigating life in the small rural community with very fresh eyes. So we're excited to kick off tonight with Daniel's interpretation of what the Methow Valley means to him.
Thank you, Sarah. That was very nice. And everybody just hold on with me for 1 second while I get my screen share going here. Okay. Like some of you, I'm still new to the Methow Valley. And although the valley has made a big impression on me, I acknowledge my experience with this place does not run as deep as my fellow speakers or audience members. I have been living and working in the Methow for only 2.5 years, but I know that there is a connection between us. So to figure out how to describe that connection, I have asked myself 3 questions. Why am I here? What has the Methow taught me? What will the Methow mean to me in the future? To answer the question of why I am here, I will have to go back to my upbringing. Born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, to 2 parents who care deeply about public service, one an environmentalist, the other a nurse for homeless teenagers. They first moved up to Fairbanks, Alaska in the 1970s to work for the Fairbanks Environmental Center. At the time, it was the construction of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, and Alaska was changing fast. One of those changes was the passage of the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, or ANILCA. Signed into law in 1980, the act put over 150 million acres of land into special protection. My parents worked hard as organizers and advocates in that large effort. You can see them here on the night that it was passed. During their time in Fairbanks, they lived in a 1-room cabin with no electric heat or running water, regularly braving -20 degrees just to go to the outhouse in the night. It was in this setting where they found a close-knit conservation community of trappers, scientists, beatniks, and back to the landers who would give them lifelong friends and inspire them to give their life's work in service of the land and people of Alaska. Fast forward to my early 20s. On summer break from university here in Washington, I worked for a guest lodge dedicated to environmental education, located at the end of a 90-mile dirt road. The lodge, along with a few other inholdings, are the only private property surrounded by the 6 million acres of interior Alaska wilderness that comprise Denali National Park. To escape the needs of guests, my coworkers and I ventured on long backpacking trips into the silted landscape in Denali's shadow, always outnumbered by caribou, moose, ptarmigan, and bear. I saw myself in relation to an ecosystem still intact. As life pulled me full-time to Washington State and my conservation career began to bud, I searched for a place with a conservation community like Fairbanks, where I would meet interesting people who are working on making a lasting impact on the land. I was looking also for wilderness, and lots of it, to explore and escape the demands of everyday life. Framed by the Sawtooth and Pasayten Wilderness on the eastern foothills of the North Cascades, I found both. Now, 2.5 years since I first arrived, my fiance and I live in a 1-room A-frame cabin, albeit one with running water and indoor plumbing. More importantly, we have found a lively conservation community of ranchers, recreationalists, researchers, retirees, and the Methow people, all who care deeply about this land. Among them are lifelong friends and mentors. The second question I asked myself to understand what the Methow means to me is, what has the Methow taught me? Just having turned 30 a couple days ago, I am of the age where decisions in life are becoming more pronounced and their consequences more clear. In this regard, the Methow has been a great teacher. Maybe I have been writing too many backyard bulletins, but I find that the flora and fauna represent the lessons I have learned the best. One of my Methow teachers has been the mule deer. Like the people who call the Methow home, they are steadfast travelers who migrate from the valley bottom to the reaches of the Pasayten and who value both the herd and solitude. They have taught me the power of community, the necessity of independence, and the utility of the landscape. One of my Methow teachers has also been the mountain bluebird, a high elevation cavity nester who colonizes areas that have recently burned. They have taught me that fire is natural and that burned is not the same thing as dead. One of my Methow teachers has been the bitterroot. Each spring, they manage to bloom such striking flowers out of the rocky and barren soil of the shrub steppe. They have taught me that strength and beauty come from difficult places. One of my Methow teachers has been the Chinook salmon, like the children of the Methow who are born here and then travel over 9 dams on their route to the ocean, where they grow for years, and then travel back along the same path to complete their life's journey. They have taught me that it is okay to leave a home. The obstacles you face going somewhere new will only make you stronger and more important to your natal stream upon your return. One of my teachers has been the Western tanager. The tanager spends winters down in the tropics and then migrates to places like the Methow in the late spring to nest. In our Northwest forests, their bright yellow and orange coloration cause them to stick out. They have taught me that the tropics are an attitude, one that if you bring with you all year round, you will give color to the lives around you. One of my teachers has been the monkey flower, who have only a small amount of genetic code, yet the genetic variation within that code fascinates scientists around the world. Their genome has helped researchers unlock the genetic mechanism behind a zebra's stripes. They have taught me that diversity should be valued, for the answers to many questions lie in our differences. One of my teachers has been the black bear, whose insatiable hunger for calories gets them into feeders, compost, trash, and trouble. They have taught me that all too often the easy things in life will be your undoing. My biggest Methow teacher has been the mountain lion, fascinating me even as a child. This pacifist among predators is capable of great strength, yet walks among us with little conflict. Treading so lightly, their prints are only revealed by a canvas of new snow. Upon examining their tracks, you see that they travel with their claws retracted. They have taught me to step with care in the world, to give people and wildlife the space they deserve, and to only show your claws if you intend to use them. The final question I have asked myself after I have explored the questions of why I am here and what have I learned is, what will the Methow mean to me in the future? Trying to think about the future and my place in it has been difficult, especially with so much going on in the present. But while we can't say for certain what will happen here in the future, we know that it will be a time filled with remarkable change. Challenges such as fire, water, land conversion, species loss, income inequality will continue to shape us in unprecedented ways. Not all the change we see will be bad. In fact, I think there will be lots of opportunity to make big positive changes. I hope to be part of a growing conservation community who will congregate around making sure that species like the Chinook salmon survive. that give more shrubstep habitat special protection, that find realistic ways to conserve and share water, and that ensures that the Methow is home to an economically and racially diverse population. Some of these are pretty lofty goals and will take years of hard work to achieve. So if I had to guess an answer to the question of what the Methow means to me in the future, it would be work. More specifically, a life's work. And maybe one day down the road, I will end up meaning something to the Methow. Thank you.
Wow, Daniel, I don't know if you can hear all that applause. I can hear it coming from the kitchen in my household, where my household is clapping loudly for you, and I can see lots of others. This is why I love this event. Thank you. That is just an incredible insight into this place. And I think all of us will ask for someday a transcript of that so we can feel those words for a little longer and sit with them, because there was a lot of profound thought there. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Our next speaker, our second thought for the night, comes from Kelly Mcmillan. Kelly is, in my opinion, the epitome of someone who's lived in the Valley through her adult working life. That means she has this long list of roles and hats that she has worn throughout her time here. She's been a farmer at Red Shed and an advocate for food as a form of social justice. She's been the internship coordinator with the Independent Learning Center in Twist. She's been a writer and founding member of the Confluence Poets, and a jewelry maker, selling her beautiful silverwork alongside the most amazing, flavorful lettuce I have ever had at the farmer's market. She is a mother and a woman deeply tied to her home up the Twist River. We asked Kelly because she is also this quiet, deep thinker. If you've ever been in a room with Kelly, you can just see the wheels spinning as she listens carefully. She's seen the Valley from so many different perspectives, from the soil in the valley bottoms to the mountain peaks. I know she enjoys hiking, and we wanted to hear what the Methow Valley means to her. Kelly, will you share your thoughts with us now?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Daniel. That was very special. Good evening, friends. Thank you for welcoming me into your living rooms tonight. I have 3 short pieces to read to you. The first is a short essay, followed by 2 poems. The first piece is Forethought. It is a privilege to live here. With privilege comes responsibility. It means working to protect this place from destructive interest. It means supporting the youth who have been directly affected by generational poverty or their parents' addictions. It means planning and working towards climate crisis solutions. It's growing plentiful food, helping each other when hardship arises. It's making art. It's building affordable homes. It's knowing the seasonal streams and animal migration patterns so we can preserve and enhance them. I'm inspired by many of you every day to expand my thinking and my connections, to help create opportunities for our youth to contribute towards a positive and healthy future. This place and its people have so much energy to sustain, to grow, to lead, and to innovate. This place is rich in commitments to protect the natural environment and create a healthier future for our youth. It's time to make good on these promises, to show what our community can do to make climate solutions real and maintain a life worth living for all people. I hope we can keep this place alive and vibrant with a myriad of characters who make this place so interesting. Those who make their own way on the land, in the arts. A place where the teachers and the cowboys, the artists and the restaurant owners can all sidle up to the same bar, talking about the weather and their kids, while their home fire warms and the chores are done. Second piece is a poem entitled Connections. Living here means connecting myself to people, leaning into a cast of characters, their deep and wide pools of stories bound by a place, shared at times in the grocery store, the post office. I connect people to food, grow produce to give away so everyone here may eat the fruits, ingest the soil and water of this place. I connect our farm to interns, tending curiosity of young people in migration who seek a place to nest and to grow plants and ideas that matter. People to people connections bring teenagers with fresh faces, eyes wide open, to mentors with a chosen pursuit, skills to share, rivers of kindness who shape the rocks. Connecting silver to silver, I fire metals to create spare organic designs, constantly inspired by this place where beauty lifts off of every grass. Images connect to words, tying the unnameable to deep feelings and the time of year, the colors, sounds, the scents raining on to the page. I connect myself to the sawtooths, yearning to be where the wind plants her garden, where birds soar over a language of rock, and the path to the mountain's heart is clear. And lastly, a poem entitled Mother Methow. When I knocked on her door in my early 20s, I didn't have much in hand, but some tools to work the land and an unnamed need in my heart. Drawn by seasons and wilderness, I found her hills to beckon and her nature to be generous. I entered, and decades later, she feels like home. In the first years, I gave sweat and toil. I went to the store dirty, along with all the old crusty farmers who came to know me through hard work. I washed potatoes alongside those men who knew her weather, her soil. Our hands grew cold in October snowfall. A land acquisition, newfound love, and some years later, I gave birth to my babies in the folds of this place. For years, I saw the valley's beauty through a child's eyes. Hills exploding with small blossoms, some we could eat. The smell of freshly cut fir trees to stack and burn when the chill descended. Rivers swollen in the springtime. I watched my son stand by river's edge and write a poem honoring those who are truly of this place. When someone or something is worthy of respect, it often goes unsaid. There's not a need to say you should respect this. As it is in the Methow, the spirit of this place is special. And in turn, I feel an allegiance to protect this small and hidden crevice in the world. Just as I now feel precautionary of the elders in my family, I also feel a guardian of this place, this beautiful ancestral place that welcomed me with an open landscape, drainages wide with fertile ground for a life of intention. I pull food from these smooth, loamy soils, its rich brown life yielding the sweetest carrots I've ever tasted. I have walked from this fertile plot into Shrub Step, a gentle, grassy hillside connecting the neighborhood with the daily life of coyotes denning, the wildness of deer ranging, the bliss of hawks soaring. Plants and clouds lend themselves to shapes and shadows. Easy inspiration where design happens, where poems take wing. I met a man once who visited that same hill when he was a boy, each year with his aunt of the Methow tribe. She brought him here for the spring beauties and the bitter roots. I watch those white and pink blossoms alight on the landscape each year, and I think of him and his family, walking and digging, collecting marble-sized tubers and fleshy roots, enough to sustain them for weeks to come. Living here, I feel privileged, sometimes destined. I know I'm lucky. More and more, I feel responsible. Thank you. Good night.
Wow, Kelly, what a gift your words are, and absolutely you are a guardian of this place. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. Another one I want to spend hours digging into to understand all of its layers and implications, but thank you. You spoke of characters of this place. I think our third speaker counts as one of those. We've asked Luke Renaud to be our third thought for the night. And when I think of Luke, I think of everything that is good and true in the Methow Valley. He has this humble, yet very infectious energy. You'll totally see what I mean in just a second if you're not familiar with Luke. He makes amazing music along with his band, the Lovingtons. But more importantly, he sees his music as a way to connect with people and to bring some joy to moments of suffering. He's the co-founder of something called the Goodness Tour, which is an organization dedicated to bringing music and art experiences to people who are facing adversity and hard times all over the world. They've traveled to refugee camps, disaster zones, homeless shelters, hospitals, mental health centers, youth crisis shelters, and other communities literally around the world. I like to think that this globe-trotting, happiness-spreading, deeply caring humanitarian found the roots for all of that goodness here in the Methow Valley, where he was born and raised, and where I think he's been enjoying spending a little more time in 2020. We asked Luke to reflect on what the Methow Valley means to him, because he has seen the world, and yet he still keeps coming back home. Luke, will you share your thoughts with us now?
Yes, and thank you for that. Wow, wonderful introduction. And so touched already by the speakers and their words on the Methow and even what's to come. And so great to see everyone's faces, even virtually. Okay, here we go. What does the Methow mean to me? I'm 10 years old and I'm standing in the gravel dirt driveway of my home on top of a hill in the Methow Valley. This morning, I saw the sun come up from behind the wall of the foothill mountains that sit over the river and across the valley from me. I've learned, now a little older, about how the earth turns, but when I was younger, I thought the sun was born from behind those mountains, and I always wanted to climb up to the top of them and look straight down into the bottomless shaft to see the sun being drawn up by pulleys into the sky. My parents and sister are off doing other things, so it's my time alone. Free to roam, no plan, follow curiosity. I take off my black torn Velcro Reebok shoes and walk back and forth in my bare feet over the driveway gravel. Someone told me that the natives who used to live here had feet so tough that they could walk over anything. I want to be like that. I do a little running man dance to speed up the process. It also speeds up the pain. Oh yeah, I'm getting tougher, I say to myself. Reeboks back on, time to take a journey. I've got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in one pocket and a Swiss Army knife in the other, so I'm all set. I head over past the barn, making a casual stop to pet the horses and brush the flies off their backs. I can give them only short moments of relief from those pesky buzzers. Then I continue on, stepping through the cheatgrass, dodging the scratchy Barnaby, heading through the openings in the sagebrush. I know where I'm going. I'll head partly up the hill behind my house to the aspen grove, eat my sandwich there, then head over the top of that hill. I call it the tidal wave hill because it rolls upward perfectly like a large, gigantic tidal wave. Then, past the spring pond and over 2 more wobbly tidal wave hills till I get to the forest. The forest scares me, but it contains something I need. Prizes from nature that thrill me. Cow skeletons. I've had a goal for years to gather an entire skeleton and put it together. Down in the barn, I have a chest where I put the bones, but I have an overabundance of femurs and hip bones so far. I stop at the aspen grove, perfect timing to sit on a log and eat my PB&J sandwich. I'm super hungry and the bread is all smashed with the jelly soaking through just how I like it. The sun is shining brightly and I can feel its rays baking on my skin, turning the little hairs on my forearm golden. A little breeze blows through and I look up to see one of my favorite things. The green round shaped leaves of the aspen trees twist and turn and shimmer as speckles of light break through the open gaps they create as they turn side to side. The breeze touches the light perspiration on the back of my neck. I feel a wonderful feeling. I'm not thinking of anything, just looking. All these things around me are alive. There's no other human nearby, but I'm definitely not alone. I feel the excitement of magic. It feels like love. As a child growing up in the Methow Valley, I felt like a marble rolling around in a clay bowl. One, I would say, made from a local pottery. The rim of the bowl is the surrounding mountains of the Methow, and I could run up to the top of the hills and peaks, but I always roll back down to the middle. Gravity pulling me, swirling down to settle in the base of the bowl, like being held in the palm of a hand. One of the undeniable things that stands out to me when I think about the Methow Valley is the shape. As I travel around the world, I still don't find a shape like the landscapes of the Methow. The curves of the foothills are so voluptuous, gentle slopes, steep slopes, curving skyline. And then when you look from the right angle, you see those foothills climbing up into the white-tipped Cascade Mountains. Sometimes I call the Methow a double hug. Some people have a double rainbow. We have a double hug. First, the foothills wrap their arms around you, and then the high Cascades wrap their arms around both you and the foothills. You feel held and protected here. And in the center of it all is the life force of the Methow, the river. And then there's another center to that hug, a life force that gives and sustains like the river. It's the community. I remember a program in school called Methow Valley as a Classroom. My father had a big part in its creation, and in this program, students go out and take personal classes from professionals in the community. Learn directly from a poet, a mechanic, musician, welder, farmer, woodcarver, wildlife conservationist, and on and on. Wow, the talent in the Methow. The varying professions that reflect the creativeness of the people here has to rival many small towns in the world. Inspiring adults who are like fruit trees in the garden of one's youth. Angelic teachers. Elder Methow folks that are your friends, even if they are several decades ahead of you in hair growth. And I see many of those faces even here tonight. And I know the youth of today have their own names of these treasured beings that surrounded you. At Little Star Montessori School, I was drawn out by the open and loving gaze of the teachers whose eyes said to me, "Tell me who you are and what do you want to bring to the world?" I was given a paintbrush and told to paint the universe. All of this mixed together brings me to the best answer I can muster to the question of, what does the Methow mean to me? My answer is harmony, completeness. I feel like I was able to experience a childhood here not always found on earth. A childhood filled with harmony, a sense of safety and well-being. As I go out into the world and do my work, I carry a knowing in my heart from a real experience that I can draw upon, one which affects how I look at everything. I experienced harmony growing up in the Methow. I experienced great love. I know what it feels like and that it can be real on earth. I go everywhere and share that feeling. It comes out in songs. It comes out in a smile to strangers. It comes out in a trusting heart. I co-created a band called Luke and the Lovingtons to share that feeling. I co-created a nonprofit called the Goodness Tour to share that feeling. I feel like I received the golden ticket getting to grow up in the Methow Valley. I am thankful to the Methow Conservancy for protecting this beautiful place. And like so many others, what the Methow Valley means to me is a lot. And I want to leave you with a short song. I hope I'm not going too far over 8 minutes. It was so hard to talk about what the Methow means in 8 minutes. I thought about singing this song. Why would you not want to see somebody shine? Why would you not want to get your whole mind blown by this love? If you get it, you can really fly by seeing all your folks grow and climb, because you lift them up. I got those thorns and those bitter seeds, but I'll always share the sweetest part of me, because I'm not equipped to judge. And every day I keep joy in my walk, love in my talk, peace in my house. I keep joy in my walk, love in my talk, peace in my house. You're welcome to my house. You're welcome to my house. You're welcome to my house. Yeah. You're welcome to my house. You're welcome to my house. You're welcome to my house. And that's what the Methow's been singing to us. You're welcome to my house. You're welcome to my house. You're welcome to my house. Thank you.
The silent clapping is like deafening, Luke. So awesome. Thank you very, very much. I think we needed a little bit of joyful music in 2020, and I'll take it even if it was only for a minute. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
Thank you. Thank you for the challenge and inviting us all here.
It was beautiful. And the spirit of harmony is a thought I'm going to gnaw on for a lot in 2021 as I wander through these hillsides. Thank you. Our fourth speaker is Sarah Burns. And every single conversation I have ever had with Sarah Burns, with the exception of a few logistical, technical conversations around how we're going to make Zoom work, I have left feeling like I just spoke to a very deep well of thought. And that's why we put her on the list tonight. When I asked Sarah if she'd be interested in doing this, she said something along the lines of, well, yes, because this totally terrifies me. And that sums up, I think, who Sarah Burns is. Think about her list of roles that she's had. She's an entrepreneur running the Spring Creek Ranch in Winthrop with her family. She's a writer, both of her own fiction and incredible pieces in Outside Magazine. She's a doula. That takes being a little bit fearless, and a former smoke jumper. So when you put those things together, you definitely get someone whose answer is, why, of course I want to do that. It terrifies me. We asked her because when we started sketching who this person was, we thought, what on earth would she say about what the Methow Valley means to her? And we're curious to see how someone who is so incredibly thoughtful, so adventurous, and ultimately so fearless might go about tackling this wide open prompt. So Sarah, we will leave you with our fourth thought for the night.
Thank you, Sarah. That was lovely and not deserved, probably. Thank you, Jason, and the Methow Conservancy for hosting this evening. And thank you to Daniel and to Kelly and to Luke. It was really wonderful to listen to everybody. It was August and scorching. Dirt smudged my face, sweat stains rippled across my shirt. I smelled like wood smoke and bar oil after several days working on a wildfire. A few years earlier, I'd stepped off a train in Wenatchee, fresh from the suburbs of Boston. I was ready to dig fire line for the Forest Service. I didn't know exactly what this work would entail in this place, the Methow, which I had never heard of. But I did know that I was looking for something different than what suburban life held for me back east. That hot August night, as I trudged toward the home I rented, I did know one thing I wanted: a long hot bath. Dave Saybold stopped me with a smile and a hello. He was in his gardens watering. He wanted to hear about the fire. I gave him the fire size up, detailed the aerial resources we had called for. I told him about the spot fires and assured him that the fire was out. Excited, I described the sunset the crew had momentarily paused to appreciate. I said that the views were spectacular. He nodded, listening. Then he tilted his head ever so slightly and smiled again. Tell me, he asked, what do you like about the West besides the scenery? I sputtered through a reply. I was tired and embarrassed not to have a decent answer for him. Finally, defeated by my own ramblings, I admitted that I was indeed wowed by the scenery. And then I lumbered toward that bath. Summer after smoky summer, I had returned west. I dug fire line all over the state, rappelled out of helicopters in Nevada, Texas, California, and Washington, jumped out of planes in Idaho, Oregon, Colorado, and Montana. I saw a lot of beautiful, wild country during those years, but I always came back to this place. Over the years, Dave's question lodged like a burr. Why was I here anyway? Yes, the beauty was part of what lured me here, and I'm wagering it caused many of you to first pause here too. But something else kept pointing the internal compass of my heart, back to the Methow Valley over and over again, and has kept me here too. For me, that something is community. I know this word is too often overused and occasionally misused. By community, I don't mean all of us doing the same things together. One of the greatest aspects of this place is how different many of us are, with varied interests and backgrounds. What I mean is that there's a responsibility for each other and for this place, a responsibility we show through the easy things and the harder things. It's bringing food to a family when a baby is born, but it's also providing lodging for a family who've lost their home in a wildfire. There's also a sense of accountability here that I haven't felt other places. Each person knowing that her actions will be felt by someone else to whom she is connected. Tonight, though, I'm not that interested in definitions. Whether your people have fished here for 1,000 years or arrived last week, I want to pose the same question to you that Dave posed to me 25 years ago. What do you like about this place besides the scenery? And to that, I'll add another follow-up question. What do you intend to do to preserve it? I like this place because the first summer I worked here, I babysat for a young family who noticed that I had no transportation. Amy and Frank Clements loaned me a bike. I like it because when I slid off the road into a snowbank one winter, I knocked on the door of the first house I came to. Those strangers grabbed a shovel, helped dig me out. Then Janice and Pete Dickinson offered me a job, which I gladly accepted at their new physical therapy business. I am here because one day I arrived at the Twisp Clinic with my daughter and her broken wrist, only to find it closed. Dr. Jensen stopped mowing the lawn and helped us. After helping prune Nell and Don White's fruit trees, I was delighted when he gave me a bottle of his dandelion wine that he made in the year I was born. What I'm saying is that I'm here because people have cared for one another, regardless of the political signs in their yards, or the job they hold, or the kind of house they live in. I love this valley because our lives here are interwoven. When a woman I waitressed with years ago drives over frozen roads with me years later when I'm in active labor, I feel a stitch being secured in the social tapestry. When my husband's high school history teacher calls to tell us that he enjoyed reading our daughter's poetry, this multi-generational tapestry strengthens. Here, I can run trails with a friend who is 20 years younger than me and make jam with a friend who is 40 years older. These are my stories. They're only my stories, but I'll bet you all have stories that are not too different. And if so, then you know what I mean when I say that what keeps me here is the way we care for each other in this unique place. Lately, though, I've started to worry about this place and this tapestry. Judging by what I've been hearing, you're worried too. More of us have arrived, drawn by that same scenery. A lot of us now can work full-time thanks to better computers, faster internet. There are more of us on the lakes, at the trailheads, more of us in the scenery, as it were. New houses are appearing like mushrooms after rain. As I sat in traffic at the four-way stop this past summer, I remembered Ash Court telling me how he drove from Winthrop to Wenatchee on the wrong side of the road simply because he could, because he didn't see another car for 2 hours. Those days are gone. This place is changing and growing. It's hard to find a place to rent. It's hard to find affordable housing. It's harder to find a place to slip off by yourself. And this place will continue to grow and change. We can choose to complain about change. We can choose to be frustrated about it. Anger and frustration, though, understandable, don't get us the future I think we all want. For me, I want to know how we can figure out ways, small and large, to continue to nurture our unique sense of community in the Methow, even as it changes. So what does matter to you about this place besides the scenery? Can you name it? And perhaps more importantly, what can you do? What can all of us do to preserve and even enhance our community during changing times? As ever, there are both easy things and also harder things we can all do, like making eye contact with people we walk by on Glover Street, waving hello on the trails, like subscribing to the Methow Valley News so you can read about community members even if you don't know them. Read about Valley opinions, even if you don't agree with them. Like choosing not to tag special spots in the Methow Valley on your social media accounts. There's a plethora of other ideas, volunteering at Jamie's place, or just sitting there for a bit and hearing our elders' stories and making their history part of our history. Maybe we could implement a widespread version of Kama'aina, the Hawaiian locals discount. Does preserving our community also mean meeting with county commissioners and local leaders to talk about ridge building ordinances, land use zoning? Of course, you could join a group that is already working on affordable housing, social justice, or land conservation. Perhaps you have the means or the time to contribute to the new library or a new future pool, all efforts that fortify this community. Perhaps funding a new position for someone to lead the enhancement of this valley-wide social tapestry resonates with your values. We are all people of different means and interests, but we do what we can. And by continuing to show the way we want to be, we will set the example for others, newly arrived or already dug in deep. The place we love and want for the future doesn't happen because other people do the work, and it doesn't happen on its own. It becomes that place thanks to 1,000 small choices that all of us make daily. I am well aware that my people have not been here 1,000 years or even 60. I know that I run a business that relies on tourism. And I adore my friends who moved here in the last 5 or 10 years as much as I love those I met my first summer here. I certainly don't presume to have all the answers. I'm not even sure I'm asking the right questions. But I return to that question posed to a younger me. What do you like about the West besides the scenery? And I'd add, for all of us, now that we're all here, what will we do to keep it special? That, I hope, is a good place to begin.
I just feel the need to reiterate that we did not know what anyone was going to say, and yet we perfectly placed Sarah at the end with that incredibly emotional and connecting, but also deeply stated question to each of us, which we couldn't have said at the Methow Conservancy any better ourselves. Thank you, Sarah. And I think we should all give our silent, deafening round of applause to all of these speakers tonight, who I hope make you as proud as they do me of living in this place. So we leave you with these 4 thoughts for tonight. Thoughts about what you see out in nature and what it teaches you about this place. Thoughts about what it means to be a guardian of a place. Thoughts about harmony and the necessity of a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And thoughts about what you like about the West beside the scenery. And we hope that as the closing weeks of 2020 come upon us, you'll ponder these and come up with your own answers and maybe bravely share them with your friends and neighbors too. We hope too that you'll join us again next year for the 2021 version, where hopefully we can all be gathered together in the barn. And if tonight inspired you to want to be a Forethought speaker or to nominate someone you know, please let us know. I'm very aware that one of the saddest parts of not being able to gather together tonight is that you won't get to come up to these wonderful speakers and share what their words meant to you. And so I hope that you'll take a moment to do that in the chat function, which I know is not the same as coming up to someone in the barn, or that you'll email me. I have emailed, I think, all of you, so you should have my address, and I will gladly put you in touch with any of our speakers. If you'd like to continue a conversation, let them know they said something that sparked something within you, or if you want to have a good contentious disagreement with them over something. These are thought-provoking people willing to engage in discussion. So please make sure that that part of Forethoughts continues as well. And with that, Jason, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Sarah and Luke and Kelly and Daniel, for stepping up to this challenge and providing so much inspiration in a year that has been so challenging for so many. And when we haven't been able to come together and share these thoughts and have these conversations and celebrate the valley we all love in the same way that we're accustomed to. And as we look forward, I hope that next year the world is in a place where we can gather together in the barn. I know that the year ahead will provide continued inspiration for all of us. I encourage everyone to think hard about the question that Sarah posed with us here. Let's make that eye contact. Let's greet those folks, whether they're visiting or whether they're new to the valley or been here for decades. Let's continue to stitch that fabric together, to recognize the impact that our actions do have on the next generation, the adventures that we will have together, and the personal challenges that come from stepping up to being present and active in this community. We certainly are excited at the Methow Conservancy to step up to the challenges that the next weeks and the next months and the next years will bring. We love the ways you challenge us as a community to inspire us to figure out how to inspire others to care for this place. If you're not already connected with us, please go to our website at methowconservancy.org. If you sign up for our e-news or our backyard bulletin, that's a great way to become aware of future events, opportunities to get involved, to meet your neighbors, to get your hands in the dirt and make this valley a better place. Also want to recognize so many other organizations in our community that work so hard to make this place special and the opportunities that they provide. We try to always advertise those opportunities as we're aware of them. But later this week on Thursday, you have an opportunity to participate in climate action planning in our community. Go to the Methow Valley Citizens Council website if you're interested in learning more about that. And a week from now, the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers have a really interesting program with Dr. Paul Hesberg looking at wildfire and its role on our landscape. And so if you would like more great entertainment on Zoom, it's there. There are ways to engage and to support these other organizations doing work. But in closing, I just want to thank you. It is our community that makes our work possible. Everything we do happens because of the generosity of those who are on this call and the networks of people you know who know and love this valley. Thank you for what you make possible. We can't thank you enough. We wish everyone a safe holiday ahead, and may 2021 bring us many bright spots and silver linings to look forward to as we're able to come together to greet one another with a hug and celebrate this wonderful place we share. So with that, good night all. Thank you. And if you would like to be connected with a speaker, get a hold of Sarah, and we'll be happy to facilitate that continued discussion. Speakers, thanks again, and everyone, go forth. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Jason.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Jason and
Thanks so
Sarah.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
For all
Thank you.
you do.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeannie. Hi.
Hi, Bronca.
Hi.
Thank you. Everybody.
Hi, Leah.
Yeah.
Great
Good, a
program.
lot of-
Look at everybody going away.
Antonella Paco.
What's up, Luke? Beautiful words, man. Beautiful words.
These are
Love-
the people. This is
love
like that
your
moment
story.
with. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was so great to see your face. I was thinking this is the moment those people that stay late at the party.
Yeah, after crowd. Everybody else is driving home right now.
Yeah.
Don't
Love
wanna
y'all.
leave.
All very much. Good night.
Yay. Good
Night,
night.
everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Jason.
Peace.
Y'all be safe.
Love.
Be safe.
Yeah.
And much love.
Mhm.
I miss all my friends.
You know, we stay late.
Sign language hug for everyone.
We stay till the end. You ain't getting rid of us till the end.
Don't want to leave.
So far away, yet so close.
Night all.
Good night.
Night, Sarah. Thank you.
Night, you're welcome.
Well done, Sarah and Jason.
Yes, Daniel. Thank you very much, man. That was an amazing presentation.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your eyes and your heart and your ears open.
I will.
Yeah.
You guys do as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel.
This is
Yeah,
getting
thanks for joining, Prabka.
Mm. Really great. The whole evening, everybody
Oh, yes.
does the heart good.
It does.
Great to see
Yeah.
everyone. Thanks
It
all.
is. All right.
Are you going up?
Yep.